Before we get into today's conversation, I want to set the tone for what this show is all about. This isn't a hot take show, and it's not about pretending we have all the answers. It's just two lifelong friends sitting on a virtual park bench trying to make sense of things. What we're seeing, what we're questioning, how it differs from our experience growing up. If that sounds like the kind of conversation you're interested in, grab a seat on the bench and welcome.
Watching all the world go by now underneath the hazy sky now. Got my ticket for the long ride. Yeah, from my park bench perspective, got that wide-eyed view on life. My park bench perspective, helping me to win the fight.
Hey, and welcome to Park Bench Perspective, where two old friends sit on a metaphorical park bench and try to make sense of the world. My name is Carlos Figueroa. My co-host,
Mike Hammer, grew up 2.5 blocks on the left from Carlos, known him since we were knee-high on the 4th of July, and we are early, mid-ish graduates of St. Louis Park. That's all the people need to know.
Yep. No, we grew up in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, which was a great town to grow up in. I think we're going to start out our first few shows and talking a little bit about the town we grow up in and what our memories are. And our goal then is to expand out and maybe talk about our perspective on the world and how we've seen it change. Our goal is not to be guys screaming at clouds, but be engage in real conversations, because I think that we got enough people out there saying, these darn kids today.
These darn kids. But I've said more and more as time gone on and seen more of the state, country, world. We grew up in, I'm going to say, an iconic, top-notch, classic a community which was right on the edge of the big city, but a first-tier suburb, and we were a melting pot, and we were 10 minutes from everywhere. We didn't know that term back when we were there. We just knew that we had a lot of stuff around us, a lot of opportunity, and I don't say we took it for granted because we didn't know what we didn't have, but I look back, I had a blast in school. I had a blast in St. Louis Park. It was fun growing up there.
It was, and then people forget that, what is it you always used to say is, I'm a white kid in St. Louis Park, but my best friends are a Cuban and a Native American.
Exactly. And you could say stuff like that because it was true. It was a fact that nobody saw anything. You weren't looking through rose-colored glasses. You were just looking at what you saw, and this was just what it is. You didn't have to be PC compliant. If you're a good dude, you're a good dude. Be a good person.
I don't even think it was a question. I don't think we had that filter.
No.
At least most of the people that were my friends are good human beings, and they judged other human beings based on who they are, how they behaved, which is the way to do it.
Yeah, we had fun. It was kind of like one of those, yeah, come on in, how you doing? We'll see if we have enough in common. We'll be friends. Otherwise, we'll be acquaintances. And let's go with that. I think I knew everybody in our class. And I see people that go, yeah, I didn't know most of the people in my class. And you're like, that's too bad.
Mike Hammer, let me tell you, you're very similar to my father, because you're the only two people I've ever traveled with. And we can be in some other state on the other side of the planet, and you guys will bump into somebody. I know 3 people, and one of them's dead. But that's what you're around. You're my social ambassador.
People fascinate me, and it's fun. And the gift of gab comes easy, but that's probably why we're sitting down here doing this. Yeah, it was just, when we harken back, I'm not longing for the old days. I don't want to live in the past or go back in time. But I do say this, if I could time travel and I could take 2 days or 3 days from when we met, maybe, or when we were in 4th grade, just to see what the mind of Mike Hammer was thinking about every day, because right now we have thoughts in our head all day long when we're awake, and then some when we're sleeping. We had them back then, but we couldn't catalog them all. So it'd be fun to go back at different times of our life, not to relive it, just to see, dude, what the hell was I thinking? Or, wow, cool. But because when we look back, we all have different perspectives of how it went. Sneak that in.
And that's what we do. We get on the bench and we share those perspectives, and we hope that people will enjoy sitting on the bench with us and talking about things. But my wife accuses me on occasion of being Cliff Clavin. I want to go a little Cliff Clavin on you now, if you'll permit, because we often remember the good old days. But I've actually been doing some research for a book I'm writing about memories and the way memory works. People think that their memory is like it was recorded and you're playing back the tape, but that's not. Your brain recreates the memory. And so you are not remembering the good old days. You are thinking about the good old days in your modern today mind, putting it together. And so I like to say that what people harken back for never existed. It only exists in your brain right now because it never existed. It was experienced differently than what your classes from, I'll admit it, age 60 remember happened.
Yeah, maybe that's part of what I guess my thought to go back for a couple days just to not think of how I thought it happened in today's day and age, but see it, because we talk about pets and we talk about music. I feel like those are the triggers that put us back in the time, because we think about the dog we had or the song, that song. So it recreates maybe more of a truth timeline.
Yeah.
But yes, we want to make it look like I was probably going to be this or that. But we do know.
But didn't it seem simpler? I don't know. And maybe I'm recreating it from my perspective now. But honestly, there were days where my biggest goal was how I can come up with $2 so I could get a keg cup that night. And that's about it. And then
earlier than that, and you think about the Saturday morning cartoons. Did the commercials bug you?
Yep.
Did the commercials bug? They didn't bug you because you didn't know anything different. So now you have to watch something on Peacock or something, and you're like going, really? They even put the time there. 90 seconds. I got to wait 90. What am I going to do with myself? But when we were young, it was simple. You just wanted to go play.
Yeah.
And you didn't really not want to go to bed because the TV turned off. Basically, the networks turned off the TV.
Did you ever share that different piece of information with your kids? TV ended at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I was like, and once in a while, like on Channel 45, they'd play the late night thing. And you're like, wow, this is weird. It didn't late. But yeah, you're like, it was like something out of Family or some. The bars come on, that's it, we're done. And
you know what? They would hit the national anthem, and then it would be, the screen was off until the morning, and that was just the reality. But I don't want to be like, old guys talking about old people stuff.
Yeah, no,
I'm more interested in, okay, here's a 60-year-old guy who grew up in St. Louis Park's perspective on what might be going on in the world. Yeah. Let's hear some different voices. I'm anxious to hear some of the things. You sound like you have some really great debates with your kids and good conversations. And I'm not exposed to people from prior generations beyond my workplace. So frankly, I try really hard not to play the generation wars. Gen X, we're the best. Gen Z is horrible or whatever. To me, those are as silly as horoscopes, right? Everybody born the same month is exactly the same. Everybody born the same year is exactly the same. Bullshit. Sorry.
And it's funny about horoscopes. I do read if it comes across the paper and I read the first two sentences, first of all, it's got 2 stars. I'm not reading it because that's lying. If it's got a 5 or 6 star, I'm like, spot on. This guy's smart. The other thing, I don't even know. I'm going to say this. I do know, but I don't remember because I don't know what we were something in there. And I'm like, who cares? Why do I care? I was born this day. Yeah. I'm grouped in with people like you that were born in the same era.
What's your early? I never asked you that before because honestly don't have much of a memory before kindergarten.
Yeah. 2 things I remember, I guess maybe because there's snow out here. I do remember my grandpa on my dad's side. And really young and it snowed. And 2 things weird about him, but went out to the garbage can, took the lid off, he did, and we walked over to Powderhorn Park and he put me on it and pushed me down the hill. And I remember him sitting there going, come on up. And I'm like, this garbage can was the size of me, basically, the lid. Then at his cabin, peeing in a Folgers can because he didn't want to go out to the outhouse. And then I remember, this is a funny one because that the prayer, Lord, lay me down to sleep. I hope, if when I wake, would wake up in the morning going, I made it through the night. This is a challenge. I thought going to sleep was a risky business. Going, I don't know. And then I'd wake up going, my God,
it worked.
Yeah. I remember that being interesting. The comment, if I die before I wake.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm like, why'd they put that in there? Let's just say tomorrow we're going to have a good day.
There's some religious stuff. It's scary to kids. It's like, I wouldn't want like a 6-year-old reading the Old Testament because there's like stoning and stuff in there, man. That's not cool for kids.
Cool, dude. Not cool. No, it's, and you're right. The impressions, when we start remembering, what do they say? 3 years old, basically, because I don't remember being coddled.
Zero recollection.
When one of my kids says something, I'm like, dude, stop it. I kept you alive. When you were freaking infant, I didn't bang your head into the wall. I
All right,
saved your life
as
every
your
day.
attorney, I may want to end this conversation at this because the statute of limitations may not have run. Let's just say that you were a good parent and move on, shall we?
We had fun.
Okay, is it okay if we talk about our hometown a little bit? Because I am proud of having grown up in St. Louis Park. I thought it was a Goldilocks zone. I think I couldn't have asked for a better place to grow up and a better time to grow up. And so you and I think highly of St. Louis Park, as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think about is all of the wonderful characters that we encountered while in St. Louis Park. So as a way to talk about it, do you want to maybe say, let's put together a Mount Rushmore of St. Louis Park and see which individuals? We can do it later on sports and media and this and that. But overall, who would you put up there to represent St. Louis Park? And I'm happy to start if you want, or give you some time to think through it because I hit you with that.
Yeah, you start.
All right. My first pick is going to be an individual that if you grew up in St. Louis Park in the 80s, you absolutely know. And that would be Saul from Saul's Superette. Saul was an institution for decades in St. Louis Park. His little store was right there by the Little League field. And I remember going in there and he'd be singing. He was the singing grocer. I'm going to throw up there on our Mount Rushmore, St. Louis Park, Saul.
An icon. Those sandwiches were to die for. But yeah, he was always there. You knew where to get it. You know who you'd see there.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, thinking about this just a little bit, there's a lot of people that come to mind, but one of the first ones that comes to mind all the time, and maybe that was just because I spent a number of not long amounts of time, but on a many day basis in Lyle Hanks' office.
There you go.
And he just had a way of putting things the way of perspective. You could see he was experienced and grizzly, and look at the kids like, I'm not trying to be a hard ass anymore. I'm just trying to push you in the right direction a little bit. If you're funny and cooperative, we're not going to get you in a whole lot of trouble or put a whole lot of penalty, but whatever on you if we're getting in trouble, because that's not going to do anything. But he always had time for you, it seemed.
Here's my Lyle Hanks story, which is embarrassing, but I'm going to tell it anyways. So in my freshman year, maybe, I was dating someone that was a little older and was really thought hickeys were the coolest thing. At the party, her and her friends were just describing, let's do this shape like this and that. And so I had hickeys. I had pretty much a burgundy neck. So I'm sitting in class.
Classic.
And high school security guards say, hey, down to the office. And I go to Lyle Hanks' office. And he honestly cannot keep a straight face. He is laughing to himself. Carlos, we've received reports. And I'm obligated to see if you have any troubles at home or anybody is hurting you. And I said, no. He goes, I didn't think so. I just heard about it. I had to for myself.
That's good.
So that's my Lyle story. So good pick with number.
I'd go down there. I'd have to go down there for not being punctual in the morning. And it was fun because he coached a lot of things, winding out his coaching time and when we were there, but he's still the JV 9th grade coach. And we'd start talking about the game or sports or something. And he'd say, why are you down here? I go, I have no idea. I just wandered in. But he got funny too towards the end. He would be like, he's just not that. Either get better or don't play. And you're like, oh, okay.
So
say it to me, though.
With my next pick, I think I'm going to do a 2-for-1 and take Joel and Ethan Coen, since everybody always refers to the Coen brothers. I've been doing some writing that I think we'll talk about and some script writing. I've developed a new appreciation for the art. And they're two of the most unique voices in filmmaking for the last 30, 40 years. I'm going to take Louis Park High School alums, Joel and Ethan.
Classic. It's interesting. Growing up, I didn't know anything about them. And it was 25 years ago, the first, Pulp Fiction, that you first started going.
Raising Arizona.
Yeah, that's right.
Was their big movie where they broke out.
And you know what's fun always when you heard St. Louis Park? You did this, nobody's watching, but you did this fist pump. Like when they came out of the end of Breakfast Club. Like, yes, I went there. So somehow, metaphorically, that shines well on me. Good for me.
You got another pick there, my friend?
I'm going to go with one I listen to here on the radio all the time. I remember back when he was running for president on the KQ morning show with Dan Culhane. Was it Bernard and Culhane or was it whatever it was?
Tom and Dan.
And they had Marky Rosen running for president way back in high school. I remember listening to it.
It was around the World Series time when that call came out.
Yeah. But I remember in high school listening to it.
Yeah.
And just thinking, wow, listening to the KQ morning show has been almost a lifelong institution. And now it's over, but he's listening to him on KFan a lot. He's just, I bump into him every once in a while and I chit chat about growing up in the hood.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff.
I'm actually going to go a little bit, someone who's less known to folks unless they were around in the sports in our era. I'm going to take Al Beugen. Al was my coach. He was also a mentor to me. Al did a lot of things that people aren't aware of. Like, for example, when my dad was involved with youth baseball, there'd always be several families that couldn't afford the fee, particularly if they had 2 or 3 kids. And Al would always write the check for those families and never sought any publicity or gratitude or anything else for it. And he was a mentor to a lot of us, a pseudo father. So shout out to Al and appreciation for everything he did for us kids.
You didn't steal my thunder because there's a lot of thunder out there. But at a young age, my dad left and whatever became the man of the house, whatever that means. And back then we didn't break things down looking for a male father figure. You just live life and things happen naturally and we didn't label it. But the first one, my Mount Rushmore, there is someone that shares the name with you. The only thing they have at the end of theirs was senior. Your dad grew up, he was 2.5 blocks from me as well. And he was my first and longest coach in baseball. And he had faith in me all the time, no matter who I beaned or whatever. The first time he saw me pitch, he said, "You're our pitcher, next," and went on. And Al too was up there on the Mount Rushmore because I had some pseudo father figures that A, kept me involved, B, had a genuine interest. And then it happened because being friends with their kids, you and Todd and whatever. But yeah, your dad picked me up all the time for all the sports. Because my mom was mother of 3, no man or whatever. And he was fun about it because he'd most of the time drop me off 2 or 3 houses down. And he would say, "Mike, get the blank out of my car," in a joking, humorous way.
A bit.
But half the time was because he forgot.
Yeah.
That he passed my house.
That's actually the reality of the source, is he just would forget. He was heading home and he's like, "Stop," and it's like, "Get out."
But these things are my Hall of Fames from when it came to. So I didn't have necessarily my dad, but I had a lot of dads that were on my side and pulling for me. I don't know if it still happens as much anymore it takes a community to raise a child. But when they started using that term, I think it lost the validity of how it was really.
Because it was our reality.
Yep.
Our neighbors watch stuff, man. If I'm sorry, Kenny, but when you were out there with the BB gun in the yard shooting squirrels, my grandma called your parents and said, "Is your son's BB gun shooting squirrels?" And so that was it. We had neighbors that kept an eye out for us. And that doesn't mean that we didn't get in trouble, but our parents typically found out things through the grapevine.
And it's funny too. You know what I realized a lot more when I got older? They picked and choose what they let us know they knew.
Yes.
I remember one time, and this wasn't when my dad was around, Ding Dong Ditch. We all remember that. And they hit a corner house right by mine. And I didn't know it, but they had this mesh on the thing. I ran into it and it got knocked down, and because you do it at night. And my dad and mom had to come there. And I told the story about I was running from some bad guys and I just thought I'd take the corner house and cut the corner and get it farther ahead. And I remember my dad sitting there and I agreed to come fix it, put it back up when I knocked down and all this. And walk out of there. My dad goes, "Someday you're going to tell me the truth, but let's go home. I'm tired. I want to go back to bed." And I was like, "You guys know stuff." Thinking back, and I'm like, "You knew a lot." And then I became a parent. You're like, "I know things. I'm just not going to bring it up either. I don't have the mental wherewithal, the challenge."
You learned that skill when you had the kids. And I'm sure you said, "Okay, kids, don't try that on me. I invented that shit."
Yeah, pick your battles type thing. Or you want to say to them, just tell the truth, because what a wicked web we weave. And when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the story because it doesn't change. But you don't know that till you get older, till you try this lying thing out. Because you're like, I can't. And then you're like, I'm going to get in trouble. Then you start realizing I'm going to get caught in trouble for this. And then I'm going to get in trouble for lying. I did it. My pants
that
are
was
down.
the lesson of Nixon is like, it's not the crime that gets you, it's the cover up.
Yeah.
Well,
all
Mike,
right, so go on. We got more.
Oh, you know what? I think that we'll come back to talk about St. Louis Park more in future episodes. But right now, I think people want to know a little bit about each other. So I can start, or you can start, however you want to do it.
You're on a roll. It's a
All
footsie
right.
roll.
My name's Carlos Figueroa. I grew up in St. Louis Park. This law for many years, found myself in a very obscure area of the law called e-discovery, and I'm now trying to transition into writing. I've been doing some writing on Substack, on some organizational systems under pressure, and then I've also been working on my first novel, The Ghosts of Lake Osakis, which I hope to be able to provide a link to here coming up in the next month. And we will have in the show notes links to where you can find out what I'm up to. Mike Hammer, how can people get a hold of you and what are you doing?
I'm going to say touche for you. And yes, I grew up in St. Louis Park, as we've established, and I've done a lot of things. And thinking back on it, going, fun. But ran a lot of businesses. Currently, though, let's start from the newest. Right now, I do construction work, basically glorified handyman, doing things that people don't want to do anymore, and finding that there's more people out there willing to pay someone to do some of these things than do it themselves. And some kids don't know a difference between a screwdriver and a butter knife. But I don't judge them. I just do the work. Plus, I have a foot care company. It's mostly insoles, and the best insole out there. And I've been selling those, getting those under people's feet and in their shoes for the last 12, 13 years.
Not a paid spokesperson. I don't make any money off the insoles, but I got to tell you, they make my feet a lot happier than they are without them. And they're that expensive considering how much time I spend on my feet. So.
Yeah. Ask me the question. How did you get into that insole business?
Hold on. Hey, Mike Hammer, something I've always been curious about. How did you get into the insole business?
I walked right into it.
Boom. Wow. You know what? I guess when I pitch, I just lob it over the plate and you hit it out.
Yeah, like softball. But it's funny is nothing says I love you like a pair of insoles. And when your feet feel good, the world looks better. I got a lot of foot puns, but we'll get on the puns later on.
At some point, we'll create a discount for people that say that they heard about your massaging insoles from Park Bench Perspectives. Huh? How about that?
Yeah,
Look at me giving away Mike's money. How about that?
I like it. We're just saving souls here, 1 foot at a time.
Hey, one other thing is that you've got a little kind of home maintenance handout that folks can find. Program to keep your house in shape, and we'll provide a link for that as well in the show notes.
Yeah, there are 20 points of what's common and what people, a 10 of what's common and should be done, and 10 are what commonly overlooked. We'll put it out there for you to do, or if you don't want to do it, we will send somebody out there for a small fee to do all those things. But yeah, that's part of what I do. Another thing we're working on is another genuine marketing group, which is a platform teamed with IBM to authenticate and make real all the products, groceries, food, everything out there to make sure that people know what it is, exactly what it is, and it hasn't been messed up and stuff like that. But we'll do a show on some of these companies and how they're operating, how they're working. And that's about it. 3 adult kids, 2 dogs, a partridge in a pear tree.
Absolutely.
And that keeps me busy.
I'm so looking forward to hanging out on the park bench with you, talking about the world we live in. And we hope people have enjoyed listening to us, and we'll come back for future episodes. And with that, I'm Carlos Figueroa.
I'm Mike Hammer.
Watching all the world go by now underneath the hazy sky now. Got my ticket for the long ride. Yeah, from my park bench perspective, got that wide-eyed view on life.